Dan the Wheelman here, and my very special guest today is this. This is the all-new 2025 Nissan Murano. It's got a new engine, it's got a new transmission, new styling, both inside and out. Lots of good stuff going on. I think it looks really, really cool. It's kind of a neat combination, I guess, of the Nissan Ariya electric car, this kind of dark front fascia here, down here especially. But there's a little bit of Hyundai Ioniq 9 in here, with this band across. I like the Murano scripting there. The dark blue paint, I think it's called Ocean Blue or something. It's okay. I think I'd go with something a little lighter. Those wheels they're nice. They're big enough, but they're a little on the cheap side. I think a similar style is available on the Nissan Leaf, which is a much less expensive vehicle than this. I think I'd go with something a little more chromy maybe. That's about the only complaint I have with the styling. The stance is awesome. I love the way the roofline really sweeps down there, kind of almost like a coupe-like look to it. Great stance, long hood, very, very modern looking. It's got the contrast color wing mirrors on the roof and this band here as well, and there, as I talked about before. Very cool narrow headlights through here, which I think is very, very cool, with a lighting signature down there as well. Neat looking vehicle for sure, but I'm more interested in what's going on beneath all of that. So let's go take a drive. At the wheel of the new Murano now, and as the exterior suggests, it's very new in here as well, and I absolutely love it. I'm in the Platinum version, which gives you some upgrades like this full-length moonroof, which is closed right now, real leather seating, which is in two tones, which looks amazing, as you can see. That looks so cool. Brown and the white, that's a really neat mix. We've got some diamond print on there as well. Heated and cooled front seats, heated rear seats. I've got the auto-dimming rear view mirror as well, thanks to the Platinum package. Platinum package also adds ambient lighting and a big 12.6 or something inch heads-up display too. So this is the full load version, but it's nice in here. The materials are really, really good. Nice real leather here on the dash. It's two-tone. You've got some kind of gradient silver looking stuff through here, which I think looks great, or maybe it just looks gradient because it's reflecting the brown leather around it. Either way, it looks cool. We talked about the seats, and the seats are comfortable as well. It's light up here, through light coloring through the roof line through here, so you don't get as much glare. I think it's great in here. And, you know, fancy leather and all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, the Platinum gets the leather. You go lower down the range, it's still leather, but it's a synthetic leather. There's no cloth seats at all in the Murano, not in Canada anyway, so that's kind of neat. So fancy leather with diamond print, all that luxury stuff. That a lot of cars do that, but it's kind of the more intangible stuff they've done here that's so neat. The unique stuff, the way they've taken this band of this leather kind of insert here that divides the upper and lower dash. They've kind of brought it, there's like a little ridge of it that goes over the gauge hood here, so it's kind of like a neat contrast there of the black and the brown. That's cool. The very unique like dual spoke flat bottom steering wheel, that's pretty cool too. It's little stuff like that I've really found to be attractive in this vehicle. It's these little things that are a little tougher to describe, but that you just appreciate the more you spend time in a vehicle. Really does feel premium, and that's before we even talk about the ride, but otherwise it feels premium. I don't love a couple of things though. I do like the real open pore wood they have here, but on that open pore wood down here, they've got like a haptic surface for your climate controls, which I don't love. I prefer to have real, you've heard me say this a million times, if you heard me say it once. I prefer to have hard buttons there. I think it's easier to use, especially when with gloves on. This is a bit better than typical because at least it's on this very cool wood. It's not this reflective piano black, which I can't stand, which just doesn't look good. It attracts dust and it blinds you when it gets reflected. There's some of that up top here, but a little bit down here as well, but not too bad. Also in here, I've got button press transmission. I get it. It reduces clutter. You can throw stuff over to your seat without snagging it on like a shift lever. I just don't find it to be as responsive as I'd like. I think a gear lever would be quicker. I don't really mind it, but that's just kind of one of the things I feel about these touch panels. I understand the point, but I'm still a gear lever guy myself. Speaking of buttons, what I do really like here, and while we don't have the buttons I was hoping for the climate control, there's lots of buttons for everything else. You've got a button and knob for your volume and power. You have buttons to turn on and off your heads-up display, turn on or off your steering assist, your heated steering wheel is down here, to your cameras are here, auto start stop. This is all done via nicely accessible buttons. And on the steering wheel, you've got scroll wheels that also double as buttons. There is some haptic feedback on here for the steering wheel, but there are also some tradition buttons, so I do appreciate that. And of course, the drive mode, which is a nice little toggle down here. So they do have some, just not for the climate control, unfortunately. Too bad. Bose audio. Bose is fine. It's not the best audio system in the world, but it's good at this price level. In addition to that Bose audio, lots of great tech in here. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wireless charging, 2 USB-C ports here if you'd rather charge that way, and some more back here. Heated and cooled front seats. I might have already mentioned that, sorry if I did, but heated and cooled front seats. Nice display here. The top level of Nissan Pro Pilot Assist safety right now, so lane centering, forward collision warning, rear cross traffic alert, all that kind of stuff is here. Blind spot, full ticket on that. There is a new version of Pro Pilot coming out soon. This one does not have it, and unfortunately, it's not something they can just change with an OTA or over-the-air update or like a flash. They need new parts for the new system, because I think the new system is going to require some new, either some laser or some new radar, and you can't just do that over the air. You got to install that. So fortunately, we're not going to say in 2025, maybe in 2026 or 2027, as they update the Murano, we'll start seeing the new Pro Pilot Assist. But for now, it's just the base, which is still fine. You get all sorts of great features that you need. Lane centering for when you're driving like with cruise control, so sort of autonomous that way, and all that kind of stuff. Dual digital displays, 12.3 inches a piece. For your games cluster and for your infotainment system. Great backup cam, 360 view, wide angle view. And what they've also done, speaking of cameras for 2025, is they now have what's called an invisible hood, so that you can kind of see what's going on underneath the Murano as you drive slowly forward. Now, that's something normally reserved for like off-road vehicles. You see it in Land Rovers, Range Rovers, Toyota 4Runner, Tacoma, all that kind of stuff. But now they've moved it to this vehicle here, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know how many Murano people are going off-road in their Murano. They don't have like kind of a off-road light version of the Murano, like the Passport has the Trail Sport, for example. They don't have that here. Hyundai's got the XRT stuff. They don't have that here, so I'm a little bit curious about the application for that. But I guess even for moderate off-roading, or when you're driving in adverse conditions, snowy and all that kind of stuff, you do still want to have an idea of what's coming up underneath you. So now you do with this camera at lower speeds. So that's pretty good. And otherwise, it's a nice high-definition camera, very easy to use. Nissan was one of the first vehicles I remember driving with a 360 cam, and they've kept it going, and it's a good one. Lots of storage through here, some storage underneath the transmission tunnel. Because you've got this electronic transmission, you don't have to worry about shift linkages. That is another bonus of having the button press, and that lets you store stuff underneath here. And it's even got a bit of a tacky surface, so stuff won't slide around. I do appreciate it. Of course, when it comes to comfort in a vehicle, interior comfort's one thing, but there's other stuff that can make it more accessible as well. And the doors are wider as well. They have wider openings, so it's that much easier to get in and out. And I'll have to admit, I'm glad that is the case, because when I first tried getting in and out of this thing, I did feel like these seem like it's a lot easier to get in here than I remember. And so I looked into it, and sure enough, bigger door openings. So it's not just about more space in general, it's about kind of the whole experience, from getting into your car to sitting comfortably in it and then getting out afterwards as well. And of course, having bigger door openings means it's easier to get your car seats in there, and once the car seats are in, easier to get the kids into said car seats. Remember, this is kind of like, it's like a mid-sized crossover. There's not a lot of competition for it out there, not a lot of comparables. The Venza's gone, the Ford Edge is gone, so that kind of leaves stuff like, you can make an argument, I guess, for the Hyundai Santa Fe. You could make an argument, I guess, for the Buick, I guess it would be the Buick Envision, I think. Yeah, the Envista is the four-door coupe thing. The Envision is the kind of more traditional-looking crossover. So you can make an argument for the Envision as well being a competitor of this. I guess also throwing its hat in the ring, I should say, is the Honda Passport as well. So not a lot of competition, but this one here, the Murano has stuck around since it was one of the first ever crossovers, really. One of the really first mass market crossovers was the Murano when it first came out. I don't even know. Oh boy, it would have to have been late 90s, I think, early 2000s. I think it was a rear-biased all-wheel drive system. A lot of the styling was shared with the 350Z sports car at the time. You could even get the Murano in that cool burnt orange that the 350Z sports car is known so well for. So all that's actually pretty neat, and this vehicle has, if I'm not mistaken, continued on unabated every model year since then. That's not something that can be said for every car out there these days, and the Murano has just, kept on trucking. And as the interior, or the quality of the interior and the styling reflects that of the exterior, the ride reflects the quality shown by all of that. It is quite smooth. It's a little firmer than you might get from something like from maybe Honda, but still very controlled, very well insulated. It's got these something resonance adaptive dampers or something where they can sense the amount of repeated movement in a wheel, or if there's larger movements, and they use some kind of crazy technology to insulate the damper and any of the vibrations that come through the damper through the wheels from the cabin or something like that. All you have to know is it really makes for a much quieter, very luxurious, I should say, ride. Over big bumps, small bumps, it handles it all really well. Steering is in regular mode. You can always activate sport if you want to change things, but in standard mode, it's a little on the aloof side. Quite a lot of dead zone there. But this isn't a performance crossover as much as it kind of looks like one. It isn't really a performance crossover. It's one that's meant to be a little bit comfort, efficiency, and all that kind of stuff. So steering's a little on the aloof side. Like there's like a lot of play in that wheel. We'll see what happens on the highway as speeds increase, and once we activate sport mode, it may firm things up a little bit. But that's really all the complaints I have. The powertrain is all new for 2025. We have now the V6 is gone, which has served duty in the Murano since its inception, now replaced by the VC Turbo, which means variable compression turbocharger. Well, what does that mean? Well, when it debuted, the four-cylinder turbo, VC turbo, when it debuted in the Infiniti QX50, I think it was. It might have been the QX55, I'm not sure, back in 2017. What they were saying, basically, Infiniti, of course, for those the uninitiated, that is Nissan's luxury line, but you probably knew that. They were saying that it gives you the kind of the torque and the fuel economy of a diesel engine, but the power and the smooth operation of a gas engine. Okay, sure. There's a lot of complexity involved in how all that works. Not going to get into that here. You probably need a diagram, and this isn't a tech channel. So go have a look at that if you want, but it does work. We've since seen it serve duty in the Nissan Rogue as well. The smaller Rogue, the Murano is one step down from this vehicle. So we've seen it there as well. We see it here. It makes 241 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. These are not astronomical numbers, I will admit, but again, this is not a performance vehicle. All of that gets transmitted to all four wheels. That's standard in Canada. You cannot get a front-wheel drive version of this car in Canada. US you can, here you can't. So standard all the way down to SV trim for $45,000, whatever it is, it's going to be all-wheel drive. Anyway, so that power is transferred to all four wheels via a 9-speed automatic transmission. If you know your Nissans, you know that means that this CVT is gone. That scourge of driver involvement, the CVT is no longer. It is now a 9-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters. That's great. However, I've still found it a little on the laggy side, to be honest. Maybe that's turbo lag we're dealing with, but there just isn't quite as much, there you go, not quite as much jump off the line, or even when moving like this and trying to go a little faster, as I would expect from a close ratio 9-speed auto. That's no joke. Like that's a lot of ratios. They're tightly spaced, but I'm not getting quite the performance as I thought. It's not a big deal, but there was one slightly hairy situation where I was entering intersection and not going quite as quickly as I thought I would, and also not reading the traffic coming at me like I thought I did. It was going faster than I thought, and so it was a little bit of a hairy moment. It was all fine. There were no horns honked and no mean glances or anything like that, but it just didn't happen as quickly as I thought it might have, considering the transmission. So you want to keep that, but also doesn't sound spectacular. It sounds kind of CVT-like in its operation, which I find a little peculiar. But once you get going, the shifts are good. I like being able to shift my own gears through these. That's nice to be able to do, and that's fine. And so that's your powertrain on the Murano. It is all new for 2025, and it needed it because I think it's been something like 10, 15 years since they redesigned this thing. There's been some refreshes, but those were more like changes to some slight stylistic changes, some trim stuff like that. Now it's a full-scale, ground-up redesign, clean bill of health now for 2025. So there you go. Okay, so here we go. Now we're on the highway at speed a little bit, getting a little more responsiveness from the transmission through here. Steering steel doesn't feel as weighty as I'd hoped. I just got to keep reminding myself this isn't a performance crossover. It kind of looks like one though. Yeah, once you get going, that transmission is great. The trouble with CVT is not only did it not feel great when you're like tottering around and trying to accelerate into intersections, didn't feel great on the highway either, and it was noisy and annoying. There was nothing, in my opinion, worth it when it came to the CVT, and they've gone away from it. Nissan, one of the first companies to really adopt CVTs for most of their vehicles, have gone away from it. And what does that show you about this tech? In my opinion, CVTs might be a little on the overrated side, I guess, because Nissan, they had it in everything. Everything they built had a CVT except for like their sports cars. And if they're not using it anymore, I mean, that I think is a somewhat damning kind of judgment on the usability and the practicality of a CVT. With transmissions having more ratios these days, smaller, lighter, all that kind of stuff, a lot of the benefits of the CVT, they don't shine quite as brightly now. When you think of the fact that so many cars now have like 9, 10, 8-speed automatic transmissions that are more compact than they used to be, built of stronger materials and so on. So the CVT, which was one of the big attractions there, was it just didn't have that many parts when it came to repairing it, and that's still the case, but with parts that are more robust and smaller and lighter, as you have now in a traditional transmission, you see how they've kind of like made the lines cross a little bit better when it comes to usability, durability, and serviceability with a traditional transmission. The funny thing is, though, even though it still doesn't sound as much of a departure from a CVT as I hoped it would, it's when you're on the highway and start to go at speed, that's when you really notice the advantage, I think, of a traditional automatic transmission, or, if you want to look at it this way, the disadvantage or the weakness of a CVT. A CVT, when you're on the highway, you need to get over a hill or past the cars and like a lot of OEMs will build in shift points that are artificial. Subaru does a pretty good job of that, and you feel okay, but you never really feel like you're doing it right. But this one here, you drop the cogs a little bit, and you get some pretty good forward push from there. I really do like these VC turbo motors. I've driven now them in everything they're offered in North America. Always liked them. I have no idea what the maintenance is like. I hesitate to think about what the maintenance is like because there's a lot going on with these variable compression vehicles, turbo engines, I should say. But they really do work for sure in terms of the drive they provide. So you get nice forward progress thanks to the transmission and the engine being very much in sync. A CVT, you never feel like it's fully in sync with the engine. You always feel like a CVT kind of runs the whole show when it comes to these cars. The engine's just along for the ride. But this one here, you really feel the two meshing together, and this is where you really notice it. When you're at speed on the highway, you get that little extra push you need, stuff so much more quickly than you do in a CVT. Even if it sounds a bit like a CVT, it sure isn't acting like one. And that's, I guess, most of the battle won right there. And I definitely appreciate this 9-speed. I have it over the CVT. It's still not my favorite auto out there, not even at this level. Hyundai's dual clutch is really, really good. But I'll take it over the CVT any day of the week. End of the day, though, when it comes to this vehicle is, for me, when you can get up in the morning, get ready to go for a drive, and really look forward to stepping into your car because you know it's going to be comfortable, airy, easy to drive, and so on, that is a big win, of course. And this one here, very much so. throughout my week with this car, I've really looked forward to setting off on menial tasks because I know how comfortable it is, how easy it is to drive in the city, how smooth it is. I like its looks, so as I approach it in the morning, it's nice to look at too. I take a lighter color, but that's me. So that's really cool. I mean, the Murano, like I said, it's kind of a weird one. It's like a mid-size 2-row crossover that isn't technically a luxury car, but kind of acts a little bit like one and is featured a little bit like one. So it's kind of operates in this weird way, especially when you consider so many other OEMs are deleting these cars. The Venza's gone. Yes, the Venza was replaced by the Crown Signia, I will admit. The Crown Signia is a lot more expensive than this, though, and it's much more station wagon-like than this one is. This is still a high SUV or crossover, so it is sort of a competitor, but not really for the Crown Signia. Plus, the Crown Signia is available only as a hybrid. This one is not available as a hybrid at all. So you know, it's and plus you also got to remember, speaking of hybrids, alternative power, you've got the Nissan Aria too, the full electric Aria, which is roughly the same as this, and from which this borrows a lot of its styling. So there is that kind of little, I guess, wrench in the wrench in the system when it comes to considering buying a Nissan of this size. But an Aria is a full EV. It's kind of a bit of a different ball game, but it is similarly sized. But still, this Murano does exist in a bit of a strange space. But speaking of space, it does give you more space than a Rogue will give you. It's only got 2 rows, so you don't got to worry about the 3rd row causing you to lose cargo storage like you would in a Pathfinder, for example. So it's a really neat mix of packability and drivability, this two-row kind of mid-size segment. You don't see so many of them anymore, but Nissan is still doing a really good one with this Murano. I'm a fan of this. I've been looking forward to driving it, and now I see why. Thank you for tuning in to this quick look at the 2025 Nissan Murano. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. If not, no hard feelings, of course. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan the Wheelman, on Blue Sky at Dan the Wheelman, and if you feel so compelled, you can follow me on X too. Although I never really go there. So if you want to follow me on X Twitter, go ahead, Dan the Wheelman. And of course, keep it locked to the Dan the Wheelman YouTube channel. Always fun new stuff going up there. So thanks again for tuning into this video. Sayonara, folks.